All righty, welcome. I am Heather Pierce Campbell, the legal website warrior. I'm an attorney and legal coach based here in Seattle, Washington, serving online information entrepreneurs throughout the US and the world. Welcome to another episode of Guts, Grit, and Great Business. I am so excited about our topic today and our guest. We are going to have so much fun, and you are going to walk away, I know, with some really profound insights. So stick around. Welcome to Ron Stotts. Welcome, Ron.
Thank you very much. Thanks for being, and nice to be here, and thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Well, it's so good to connect with you again. We were connected through our mutual friend, JV Crum.
Right. Yes.
Yep. So JV lives very much in the conscious business, conscious entrepreneurship space. And so Ron is a natural connection when you approach it from that perspective. And for those of you that don't know Ron is a 3 times best-selling author with a PhD in psychology and a doctor of chiropractic. He has spent the last 5 decades exploring the deepest caves and soaring heights of both personal and spiritual journeys. He is intimate with all aspects of the territory. As a transformational guide, he has supported thousands of others on their journeys as they moved through their most difficult challenges and developed their greatest potential. And I know you blend psychological, neurological, leadership, like you've studied very, very broad fields and brought all of that into your work and work specifically with entrepreneurs and executives, supporting them into the highest levels of conscious leadership.
Indeed.
So welcome. You guys are in for a treat. Stick around. We're going to have some fun. So Ron, I'd love to know when did your interest in, this area of, I don't even know how to summarize it, right? The area of, because it's so big, it's spirituality, it's neurology, it's psychology, it's leadership. It's really a blend of some fascinating studies, but where did that begin for you?
Well, I would say, I was in my late teens, my first year of college. I was a rowing champion. I was, had been dating my high school sweetheart, was a beautiful woman, and I just kind of, okay, this is what life looks like, and I decided to go into the Marine Corps. It was during the Vietnam War, and that changed everything.
Oh, wow. Boy, did it ever. I can only imagine.
Turns out I was not, I was physically extremely well prepared, but mentally didn't have a clue that it was all about, that it wasn't another sporting event, that it was actually about being killed and killing other people. And so I did get out on a medical discharge after about a year, but I was a mess. I mean, there's no other way to say that. I was PTSD and not functional, and I got divorced, lost custody of my 2 sons. I was really stumbling badly, and I got to the point where I wanted to commit suicide, and so I went up into the woods and hiked deep into the woods so nobody would find me, and trying to be considerate, And on the morning that I was attempted, I was plunging a large hunting knife into my heart, and somewhere between here and here, literally I just dissolved in this white ball of light, and I'm 20 something. I have no idea what any of this is.
Wow.
And in that experience, I just really experienced the oneness of the universe, the perfection of life, that I had higher purpose, that that regardless of how it looked, keep moving forward. And so when I came out of that, obviously my mind had completely been blown, and I began my search in terms of, well, how do I reconnect with that level of awareness, that level of consciousness? And so it's that exploration that really took me into my inner healing, outer exploration, into spirituality, psychology, neurology, quantum physics, everything else, because
Mhm.
fortunately I was able to reconnect and discover how to be in that experience without it being sort of dropped on me like that. So
Right. Well, what a profound like knowing of like it's not your time, right? But what a profound
right.
experience of that. And yeah, it sounds like very unexpected.
Very.
Um, Oh, Veterans Day just passed, right? So
Yes,
first
it
of all, thank you for your service. And I read a quote that somebody shared that said, all veterans pay with their lives. They either pay
oh,
immediately or
yeah,
they pay over
absolutely.
time. And I
Yeah.
just thought, oh, the weight and the
War
truth
is
of
just the worst
that.
thing that we do. I mean,
Oh, it is
yeah,
absolutely the worst thing that we do. Yeah. So anyways, when you say, you've been through the deepest caves, and the soaring heights, I see glimpses of what you mean by that, all kinds of
mhm.
caves in this lifetime, but you've had your own personal caves as well.
Yeah, and one of my early mentors was Joseph Campbell. I mean, we really got to be quite close, and of course, he gave me that analogy that he's now famous for in terms of going into that cave to discover the treasure that you seek. And of course, now I understand fully that that treasure is really yourself, and falling in love with, accepting, and really unconditionally being present with yourself. It's fun.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned going through really deep depression and the personal struggles that you dealt with, pretty early in life. I mean, in your
Very early.
20s,
Yeah.
that's early. A lot of people, I think, sometimes don't hit that depth until
Mhm.
midlife, right? With the typical midlife crisis. And I
Right.
was reading one of my favorite books, well, two of my favorite books, and I was introduced to them in my 20s. Is the Swamplands of the Soul and the Midlife Passage, or
Uh-huh.
the Middle Passage. I think it's the Middle Passage. Let me get the title right. Anyways, I've read these books time and time again, and they are James Hollis, right? James Hollis is the author, but they're short, they're intense, but they talk about, it's basically about the exploration of these caves, right? And what the type of meaning that can bring into our life, and also how caves are not an anomaly.
Yeah.
They're just part of the human experience. We all have them. We all have the opportunity to traverse them, to go through them, to go deeper into them if we are willing, and really see what's there. And, I think so often in life, we spend our time trying to not get anywhere close to the caves.
I think that's the biggest shame is people have been conditioned through fear and the news and politics and religion and everything that inner world, that going into those inner caves is really the thing that you want to avoid. And it's truly where you find yourself. That's truly where you find the depth of who and what you are, the depth of what life is all about. It gives you the meaning. I mean, I work with high level leaders, and that's exactly what I guide them through. If
Yeah.
they can't be emotionally intelligent unless they've healed their emotional past and really become intimately familiar with the different feelings, they can't. Unless they expanded their consciousness, they can't be present and aware, with their people, with themselves, with their relationships, so that they can lead in a conscious way. And so, yeah, it's a journey that I embrace fully on my own, and really, I guess that's my job, is to really encourage others to go on that inner journey where they become mindful and they become really focused on embracing regular personal transformational experiences, and that could be yearly or however life brings them, but really intentionally
Mm.
incorporating those into their life. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And when you think about doing it intentionally, because I think so often for many of us, the transformation comes on the other side of really deep valleys, deep
Exactly.
sorrows, deep grief, deep loss, like all kinds of deeps. And I think that we have this hunger for happiness. And it's, I don't know how you feel about that, but I feel it. And I feel like we're so conditioned to be thinking like, oh, well, we should be happy, or even, more, even from an energetic side, for those of us who are naturally optimistic or want to live on the brighter side of life, there's almost a guilt and a shame that can happen when you get pulled down into the deeper parts and feel, like you're down in the quagmire, right? But it's so
And the
essential.
irony of that is those are the greatest moments of your life. Those are when you should be celebrating, because that you don't run into those struggles, you don't run into those depths unless you've really been growing. And it's like, okay, as soon as I feel something, that I'm stumbling over something, as I'm struggling with something, as I'm at the effect of something, that's nothing more than an indicator that there's something that's ready to heal, that I'm ready to access another part of myself and become more whole and complete. And that's, that's how we become a whole, self-accepting, loving human being. So we should be celebrating those times rather than avoiding them. And that's where, happiness is a little bit overrated, I think, but the result of that is happiness. But you're not
Yes.
attached to what it looks like.
No,
You can be happy in the depths of your struggle because you know that it leads to the greatest, rewards of your life.
that's right. And to me, having been through multiple pretty significant periods like that,
Yeah.
where you come out the other side and you feel different. You almost feel like a different person in
Sure.
many ways,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
But happiness, like the flavor that it's taken on for me in my, later life, is wholeness, is what it
Yeah.
feels like. It feels more like wholeness, right? Like that balance, that
Well,
integration.
you're saying you feel like a different person. You are a different person because you're letting go of what's holding you back, and you're literally expanding your consciousness, which means you're seeing, reacting to, and experiencing everything that comes into your life completely differently, and much more, with all the tools and abilities you truly have available. So yeah, I guess that's a lot of what I try and share, is that whatever, your stumbling blocks truly are stepping stones, in the sense that
Yeah.
when you feel them, if you learn to go deep within, if you learn to breathe and access what's really going on in there, then you go, oh, that's what I'm truly feeling, that's what's going on, and you have the tools and ability to heal that. I guarantee it, every time, the very part that you need to move forward and evolve in your life will come forward from that. So, I mean, it's like so perfectly designed. And yet we have this lie that says we're better off in our fear than in our love,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's a shame. That's
Oh gosh, it's such a shame. And it's so much of, I've been on a healing journey, which I speak openly about for the last couple of years, like a physical healing journey. I've had some adrenal fatigue, and I feel like a lot of things that can go hand in hand with modern day motherhood and also entrepreneurship. Let's be clear, we're speaking to a group of
yeah.
entrepreneurs, and I think plenty of us know what burnout feels like,
Yeah.
what some of the signs look like. But it's one of the profound learnings was how much our physical is tied to our deep emotional, and our, of course, our nervous system, and this balance between fear and love, and how 97% of the time, 97% of us are running around on the fear side, living our life out in that way.
Which also means you're not breathing,
Yes. Well,
which
and the
means
other
you're
thing,
which means you're communicating to your body you're in fight or flight, which shuts down systems, diminishes your brain capacity, And all of a sudden you have reason to be afraid because you're limiting all of who and what you are,
Yes.
rather
Well,
than taking whatever's going on as an opportunity to expand into even higher states of consciousness where you can always find the answer to what you need.
mm, yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
you said a really important thing, probably a few paragraphs ago about if you take a breath, right? And that simple act,
everything.
I said to you, before we went live, like my sister and I joked, she's a mom of two little boys, and
Mhm.
we were just talking about eye injuries, and my son went through an eye injury, and like all the things that happen in life, and pile on, and we joke like, oh yeah, we're experts at shallow breathing, and unfortunately I think so many of us are.
Oh, it's rampant. It's just an epidemic throughout our world. I mean, I'm a sailor, and I live in the Northwest also. But when you're sailing, your foresail, the front sail has little ribbons and little threads on it, and you watch those threads. There's one on either side of that very front edge of the front sail, the jib generally. But what you do is if the inside one's fluttering, oh, I need to fall off the wind or come up a little bit. And if the outside one, you adjust. So you really learn to recognize these very subtle indicators as to what you should, how you should guide your boat, your life. And so if you learn to pay attention to your breathing, you can use that as your telltale. You can use that as your indicator. And so it tells you way in advance to the drama and upset what you should be doing in terms of subtly guiding your life. And you can learn to breathe. I might as well throw it in here, since the 30-day breathing program that I'm going to offer everybody, it literally teaches you to be paying attention to those subtleties so you don't have the huge dramas, so that you're not like, where did that come from? You see it
Right.
coming and you're adjusting, and you learn to really, that's the art of life, is to
Yeah.
pay attention to those subtle indicators, which your breath is really the easiest and most comfortable one to use.
Oh my goodness. I'm in part shaking my head because I think about how many of us have missed that as the simple forward indicator. And instead, like, I'm recalling a time in my 20s when I basically was diagnosed with much after the fact with shingles. I'd had a massive
Mhm.
shingles outbreak
Yeah,
on my torso, and it
that can
was
be
a
tough.
result. Yeah, totally. It was a result of going through a divorce, and at the same time, I had a sibling going through a really hard time, and just some a lot happening all at once, where that was the way that my body responded. And I remember my doctor saying, and he's a naturopath, and, obviously I'd missed some of the early signs about what needed to change course. Clearly, like, I was going through a divorce. I'd clearly missed many, many signs.
Right.
But he said, right, this, because once you have shingles, there's no, it doesn't ever like really go away. It's always in your body. And
Yeah.
he said, this is the canary in the cage. This may be the thing that lets you know when your body is under stress in a way that you haven't noticed. And I thought, oh my gosh, what a
Yeah.
way to have that show up, and for some of us, we have those types of things that are the canary in the cage because we missed the
That's
earlier
exactly
signs.
right. I mean, I've had people come to me with all sorts of physiological, psychological issues,
Yes.
and that's exactly what I do, is I support them in seeing that as a gift, to as a less subtle indicator.
That's right. A
More club
slightly
up
more
the side of the head
painful
indicator.
canary in the cage. Yeah.
But that's what mindful living is all about, is
Yes.
finding the subtlest indicators so that you are mindfully breathing and paying attention, staying curious and conscious, so that you can enjoy your life,
Yes.
so that you can learn from and really be gratefully, receptive to whatever is coming into your life. Trust that it's perfect, because
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's
I love that messaging. I could see what a great joy it would be to work with you. I'm wondering, for the folks that find you, do they know what they're in for? Is
Well,
that a funny question? Yeah.
I do try and give them a heads up.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, I imagine
And
there's
referrals
things
too.
that they think are the problem. Like, I imagine you get people that come to you and they think, X, Y, and Z is the problem. And when you really dig into the work, it's like, oh my gosh.
Everybody thinks the problem's outside of themselves. We are addicted as a society to looking outside of ourselves for all of the answers that we can only find within ourselves.
Mm,
The challenge is, and it's really just disturbing for them to find, oh, it's not outside, it is inside. But it also becomes the most exciting part of their life because it's
yeah.
so empowering. That's what takes them into the higher level leadership, is because they really not only access literally neurologically entirely new levels of thinking and being and creativity and all, but they become more agile. They're able to just deal with whatever's coming into their life because they're breathing, being
Mm,
present and curious. And in that place of present curiosity, they are mindfully aware. And there's the forebrain develops in that quieter brain, and it becomes much more aware of not only what serves you best, but what serves everyone best. Where the
mm,
amygdala is kind of emotionally overreacting to everything. That forebrain, when it takes over as the conscious CEO, which is really what its role should be,
yeah.
it really guides us through life in a much more conscious way.
Mm. Do you find that people, because I imagine, what you just said, like people are shocked to find out like what the real issue is. Is
Mhm.
that a knowing that they come into on their own through doing this work?
I
Or is
learned,
it, do you feel like it's much more like you're shining a light and they look and then they see it in a certain way that they just haven't seen it before?
yeah, I learned very early on that if I tell people something, they'll resist.
Totally.
If
This
I
is why
guide,
I'm asking is like,
yeah,
how do they get to the place of really seeing it clearly, right? Because we're all human.
I've spent 40 years being a guide, and I
Mm,
guide them on a journey that allows them to recognize, realize, and accept all the truths that they need to really empower themselves and move forward in their life. And it transforms their life.
yeah.
It transforms their significant relationships as well as their business relationships. It transforms the relationships with their family, their kids, as well as their relationships with everybody at work. And it's like, for me, if I know my highest intention, then whatever supports that, I'm going to embrace and integrate into my life. Whatever doesn't support my highest intention, my my aspiration, what I need to breathe into, if you will. If it doesn't support that, then I let it go. I ignore it and let it go. And as I
Mm,
do that, my life becomes much easier because all aspects of my being, mental, spiritual, physical, all of it, are moving in the same direction. So, of course, as you learn to do that within yourself, you influence those around you, and the people I work with develop organizations that are all in alignment and moving in the same direction. So it's really no wonder that they increase their profits and productivity by tremendous amounts.
mm,
I mean, the research shows 40%, but I see people do well beyond that in terms of increased profits and productivity. And so, I'm a bit new agey, but the truth is, bottom line, they're going to make more money. They're going to be more productive. Their life's going to be better. They're going to have less struggle, more ease. So everything they really want, they're going to have, but they have to let go of their egoistic, authoritative leadership, old style, that top-down model that really, it works to a level, but you can't go past that level. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, we talk regularly on the podcast about, business growth being limited by our individual capacity for personal leadership, right?
right, exactly
They're
right.
just so intertwined. And so, I think the joke among folks who know is the best journey to individual growth is business, is entrepreneurship, right?
That's interesting because that's exactly where I've gotten to. I mean, I used to, I had centers in Switzerland and, spiritual communities and all of that. But I really see if you are playing consciously in business, you have just created the best spiritual personal growth path that you could possibly ever have. And I just finished with a guy, very powerful guy, and he's looking at, well, geez, I really like what you do. I go, yeah, that's great. Become a CEO of an organization, and you have all these people that you get to support them becoming more aware, conscious, and supportive of one another. You can create a collaborative, cooperative organization where brings out everyone. They just recognize it's like, oh, this old playground that I've been on with all these rules and limitations and left brain, analytics turns into this really enjoyable playground that is unlimited. I mean, and they become so highly functional that oftentimes they're working, they have several organizations because they're able to handle that. They've empowered everybody else to run them, and they're just more overseeing them. So it's just, yeah, it is transformational.
Well, and it sounds like, part of the transformation, the way you described it, is helping individuals. Is our sound behaving? I got a couple chops. Are you hearing me fine?
You're doing fine.
Okay.
You're
Excellent. Is helping people become more discerning, right? Like increasing their level of discernment from a leadership standpoint. But it also sounds like through that personal journey, it's also about getting to a point of whether it's accepting or just having greater capacity for complexity.
It isn't complex
It
anymore.
isn't. No. Yes.
You're too present, you're too aware, and that dissolves the complexity. The complexity comes from not breathing, not letting things through, and staying present with things. And all of a sudden you're dealing with a backlog of chaos, from childhood issues to other organizations to whatever's going on. And that becomes very complex, very, stressful. And so you can't lead well from that place. And research shows that it's really, my goal is to create a more conscious and caring world. That's why I do what I do.
Yeah.
And all the research shows that the only people that can have really lasting, significant transformational, create that transformational change are high level leaders, both, that change in an organization, but also on a societal level. So my goal is to kind of, if I can create enough of them to have that impact in the world, then all of a sudden we'll be moving in a better direction than we seem to have been doing for a while.
I love that. At what point in your journey through the work that you're doing did you focus? I mean, was there a point where you weren't working with entrepreneurs or people in business, and then you got more focused, or have you always been focused on?
No, I certainly worked with the general public. That didn't mean that I didn't work with high level business people. I mean, owner of an NFL team, or owner of a national hotel chain. So I worked with people who were playing on very, very high levels sometimes, but other times I'd just be dealing with whoever, somebody referred somebody in. Other psychologists, for a while that was, a lot of people coming in because they realized they couldn't work with people on the level they wanted to because their own issues hadn't been dealt with. And so I helped them through that, and then they could go out and have a bigger impact in the world. But my publisher, when I was doing my first book, really pointed out that I have this very unique talent of ability to take people into these highest levels of leadership. And the truth is, it's nothing different than what I was doing 40 years ago when I was working with groups on enlightenment. All I'm doing is I know how to shift levels of consciousness, how to get the things out of the way that keep us from being more conscious. And that's, when you really look at, I mean, I've got a handful of books off to my left here, and they all say, whether they know they're saying it or not, is the highest level leaders are really just more conscious, more aware, more present. You know, the thing that I found interesting is in all of those books, they say, well, we don't really know how to take people into those highest levels. They can describe them and they can take them in from mid-level to a little bit above. But when I recognized that, I said, well, that's exactly what I know how to do. So I'm in my, this is what I
your
love.
happy place.
But your point in terms of business is perfect for all of that. That you can't find in today's world a better spiritual path. You don't need to go sit in the Himalayas in a cave. You can just sit in your office, and if you're playing consciously and doing it well, you're gonna find what you're looking for. That shifts are going to take place.
I love that. Well, and for folks, because you're talking to folks listening to the podcast who are conscious, who want to be more conscious, who want to be more caring, who want to be more impactful through their work. Where do you start with folks? Walk us through the first couple steps or things that, we can do, whether it's on a daily basis, whether, whatever the routine is to get a degree or a few degrees better. What does that look like?
It's funny because I had a guy calling me just out of nowhere, very, very high level C-suite guy. And I did some research in terms of who he was. And I'm like, wow, this guy's playing at some really interesting levels. So I kind of came into the conversation thinking, I can't really help him much. He's doing fine. And within minutes, I'm asking questions. And in asking questions, what I'm looking for is, well, what's your biggest challenge? Well, how is that playing out in your life? Well, how is it playing out in different aspects of your life? How long has that been playing out in your life? Is it time to get that handled? And literally every time, regardless of how much work they've done or how wonderful they are, we always find
there's something
that's ready to be healed. It's like somebody, I remember the old joke years ago was, well, how do you know when you reach enlightenment? And it's like, well, if you're here on the planet, you still have some work to do.
Totally. Oh, that's so good.
and really, so it's just a matter of patiently going on that inner journey and finding those parts of ourselves that are ready to be healed. And the best way to do that is to be able to learn to breathe and be present with yourself. The truth is, breathing is everything. That connects you to who and what you are, to the world, to others. How you're breathing is going to tell you exactly how you're doing in life.
Say it again louder for the folks in the back, right?
I mean, breathing really is my guide. It's my spiritual teacher. It's the thing that I trust that will take me into and through whatever I'm dealing with in life. It is the most empowering aspect of our life, and it's the most ignored and denied part of our life.
Oh my goodness, right? Well, how many of us, I'm raising my own hand, are experts at shallow breathing, getting through significant portions of our day and being like, wait, I have a physical body.
And I mean, as a chiropractor, I also know that sends that signal of fear, which shuts off half of our nervous system, which literally the brain shuts down.
Oh yeah, shuts down your digestion, shuts down, yes, all of the above. I know.
As soon as you start to not breathe, you literally, you begin to feel fear and become aware of it. And that fear really gives you reason to be afraid because you've just diminished your basic innate capabilities of handling whatever is coming into your life. So if you heal your past and learn to be present with whatever's coming into your life, then it's something's coming into your life, rather than stopping breathing, you learn to automatically breathe into it.
Yeah.
And that changes the game completely. Because then you're coming more from a place of self-acceptance and love, from a place of trust, from a place of gratitude. You're trusting that everything coming into your life is perfect, and you're going to learn to breathe into it and receive it. That doesn't mean it's always fun and exciting.
No.
It means that you trust. And I have to share, in moments of some of my, I mean, I thought I'd kind of handled things, but I think I was 60. And I thought, okay, now the ride's, it's
I've
pretty.
learned my spiritual
I'm
lessons.
promoting.
I'm on the gravy train.
And I was on a journey, and boy, I ran into something. Turned out to be all about Vietnam stuff that I had just buried so deep that it had never had the permission to come up. And of course, having done all the healing, now it was like, oh, okay, now it can come forward. But I remember in the middle of that feeling like I'm giving birth to a water buffalo, and knowing that I might die, but also being in such gratitude that I have the opportunity to heal this in my life, knowing that that's going to really expand my ability in whatever is next to, just allow me to really take a quantum leap in consciousness and my experience of life or beyond. So yeah, it's people want to talk about being grateful or emotionally intelligent and all these things. Well, this is what you have to go through. You have to go on that inner journey. It has to become part of your life to really, life isn't about finding a comfort zone, as everybody knows, and staying stuck. That'll kill you. But it's also not about finding a comfort zone and then shifting to another one and then shifting to another one, because that's, we're perfectly designed to evolve and constantly grow and shift in that smooth, elegant sort of evolutionary way, rather than the stop, start, struggle, feel held back.
Yeah. I love that visual.
Yeah.
I'm curious for you, as somebody who had previously done a lot of work, because there's probably folks listening that, have done an amount of work that they feel like, okay, I have a new level of understanding. I'm feeling better about where I'm at. And then they bump up against something. What were the signs for you that you were bumping up against something at 60, right? After having done a lifetime of work.
Well, I was in the middle of an experience.
Yeah.
So it hit me rather fully.
Got it. Yeah. Well,
It sneak up.
the what?
It didn't sneak up.
Didn't sneak up. Yeah, it was in your face, brick in the
but
face moment.
You really, there's always indicators. There really are. And I mean, in business, when people come to me, it's because they've done the best they could to get to where they are. And they keep kind of doubling down and overworking and stressing and everything, and they can't seem to move. And as you said earlier, our personal development goes hand in hand with our professional development. It really does. And so those are, again, when you're stuck, that's time to celebrate. Congratulate yourself for getting to where you've gotten to, that it's time to now
learn a new lesson. Yeah.
Aspect of yourself. And like I say, in going on that inner journey and healing that part that's ready to be healed, you will always, no hesitation in this, you will always find the very part of you that you need to support you in continuing to evolve and taking your life and your work up to the next level. And people are so afraid to invest in that. It's like, oh, well, what if, it's like, yeah, well, what if you don't?
Right. Yes. What if you don't? I know, that's even scarier, right? Yeah.
And I watch people, they go through this kind of work. They become the CEO. They become all the things that they truly wanted, that they were afraid they never would. But so many come into it going, well, yeah, but what if it doesn't, it's like, what was that? Used to be an old joke of like, well, what if we put all this money into training our people and then they leave?
Yeah. Well, what if they stay?
What if they stay? Yeah, you have to make, it's like so many people get divorced because they're afraid to open up their heart. Well, if you'd open up your heart, you wouldn't have had to get the divorce. You would have really discovered what love and connection and the depth of that journey can be about.
Yeah.
And so and it's an arrogance. It's an ego.
We do it so
We're
backwards.
so afraid that if we don't do good enough, we'll be judged and rejected. But well, yeah, but if I do that, what if I fail and I might be rejected and nobody might love me if I'm like that? And it's like, you have to be willing to be yourself, be in your power, open your heart, love yourself unconditionally. It doesn't mean you won't screw up. It doesn't mean, it means you learn to say, oops, because you
Totally.
continue to screw up from time to time.
Right. Well, the irony in reading, and I can't remember which one it was, whether it was Swamplands of the Soul or the Middle Passage. I've been reading both of those again recently, and it was just, there was a passage about how you can't exist and not inflict pain on other people at times. Like there is no perfect existence, there is no not hurting others by being here and being yourself and growing through those lessons. So I think that's
That's because they have expectations and images of who and what you should be. And if you're trying to fit in those, you are killing yourself.
yes.
Literally, quite literally.
Right. And how many people through midlife continue to try to fight that battle? Yeah.
The top 10, when I was in chiropractic school, I looked this up. The top 10 reasons people die, out of those, 8 are really lifestyle choices. In other words, we're slowly committing suicide through our life and limiting our life that severely. So it's that's the comfort zone thing. That's the not being present with yourself. That's not willing to open up your heart and love. It's like if when somebody comes to me and they look at all the things they've done to protect their heart as a child, I say, wow, what an amazing child you were to be that smart to see what you needed to survive that part of your life. But now if you keep that armor on your heart, it'll kill you, quite literally. So now is time to let that armor down, let the adult you really reparent that child so that you are whole enough, so that you are unconditionally loving yourself.
So beautiful. So beautiful. So hard for people and so beautiful. Oh my gosh, I could talk to you all day. We've got like 2 minutes to the top of the hour. So for folks that are listening, we already hinted at what Ron is giving away, and it is essential. I am going to go grab it. I am so excited to learn more about how to breathe better. So Ron, do you want to share a minute about what your gift is?
Well, sometimes 30 years later, somebody will come and they'll call me or email me and stuff, and they're still talking about the breathing. And I'm like, well, that's not, that was such a small part of what I do. Well, the truth is it's woven through everything that I do. Yeah. And so I finally did a 30-day breathing and success program that's, by the way, really enjoyable. You're really, it's just a thing that you can do every day. But it's, I'm offering the first 3 modules of that for free.
Oh, so I love it.
Sample that. And it's just, if you go to ronstotts.com/breathing into success / and I think you'll have that up. You're welcome to enjoy those first 3 modules. Listen to those for the rest of your life, or you can get the other 30.
Right. No, I love it. And so we will be sharing, we'll share your website. We're going to share that breathing into success, where people can start the first 3 modules for free. Folks, you can find those also at the show notes page, which is legalwebsitewarrior.com/podcast. Find Dr. Ron Stotts' episode. We are so excited to share this. Ron, I know that we just, it was tip of the iceberg today. There's so much more to your work and to your story, but I'm so grateful for you being here and sharing a bit with us about the profound impacts of, helping others through those caves, and so often it's those caves that we need and we avoid. So I'm so grateful to you, and I'm so happy to know about your work. First of all, do you show up other places online?
And
You do. And you like for people to connect with you there. Give us a quick ping
Yeah.
on where you're at. And
Facebook and LinkedIn are really my two primary areas, and I'd love
perfect.
to connect with people on those two. And welcome to go to my
Excellent.
website at ronstotts.com. And yeah, so
Awesome. Okay, we'll share those as well. The links over to your Facebook and to your LinkedIn page. Any final thoughts I mean, you've taken us through lots of territory already, but any final thoughts or takeaways that you would like to leave with our listeners?
you know, life, the world, our society is like a puzzle, and you truly need to take that inner journey, regardless of how you do it, where you do it, but take that inner journey and stay with it so that you can learn to love and accept yourself and become become a part of that puzzle. We need every aspect. We need everyone to join in and consciously be a part of that puzzle so that we can really create an entirely new, more conscious and caring society. And you're part of that. So, don't wait for others to be
I
that.
love it. I love the visual of a puzzle, both from the connectedness standpoint and just the visual of it. Thank you, Ron. I so appreciate you. Really, really looking forward to sharing this
I mean,
conversation.
my pleasure, and thank you so much. All right.